Okay, thank you. Short presentation on Destiny Pharma. Countdown has started. So we're an AIM-listed company. Company's been around for 20 years, and we own the platform, the XF platform that we're developing, and we're in phase 2 for the prevention of hospital infections. I'm very excited about the period ahead as we deliver phase 2 data. So, as I said, we're in phase 2. The study is underway in the US and Europe. The XF platform has good intellectual property coverage out to 2030s. We have a partner already for China rights. We have a pipeline of earlier programs, but the lead asset very much, of course, is the key value driver. The phase 2B, as I said, is underway, and it's under a QIDP from under the auspices of the FDA, qualifying infectious disease product status, and is very novel, and we believe has a great market opportunity. We have cash, which we can make last through to 2021, so we're not particularly in fundraising mode at the moment. Of course, as a biotech, we're always open to interest from potential investors. So the pipeline, just talking around the pipelines, you'll see the lead asset, XF73, is a nasal gel formulation for the prevention of post-surgical staphylococcal infections. It's a well-established medical need. Staph aureus infections such as MRSA are well known as the primary post-surgical infections, managed by a variety of procedures, including in carriers who carry it in the nose to decolonize and reduce their risk of post-surgical infection. There is no, we think, a great product on the market. Nupiricin is used, the old GSK antibiotic, but we believe there's a clear opportunity for us with a much better formulation to really expand into that market. We also have XF73 coming through in an earlier clinical program in dermal infections, diabetic foot ulcers, leg ulcers, and other wound infections. And then some earlier programs running where, again, assets from the XF platform are being taken forward to look at respiratory infections, ocular infections, and also across the board, XFs have shown great activity as gram-positive bacteria and gram-negatives in biofilms, which is a developing area. And as you see, we have various collaborations. So the commercial partner is China Medical Systems, who are an investor, board seat, have China rights. But also we have collaborations with companies like MedPharm in durable programs, but also grant-funded work, which is there is a large amount of grant-funded activity in this area with the medical groups at Southampton, Sheffield, Cardiff, and also through our China connection, we won quite a large UK-China government grant award with Tianjin, looking at a variety of the earlier programs there. So well-funded, and the key asset, of course, and the key value driver, as I said, is that phase 2B program. But coming back, of course, to the market we're in, anti-infectives, antibiotics, it's unfashionable. There's a clear disconnect as I go around to the various conferences. There's obviously a clinical need. It's addressed as a global problem. It's one of the few healthcare issues which is discussed at sort of WHO, G7, G20. So everyone, it seems to me, accepts that there is a need for new novel approaches, drugs, preventative treatments to address the lack of novelty in antibiotics. There hasn't been a new mechanism since the early 1980s. But of course, there are certain challenges to this. It's very well pointing out the clinical need, but there also needs to be a commercial opportunity. And the fact is that Pharma have backed out of the space because generics perhaps were doing a job and they haven't seen the commercial upside in novel anti-infectives. We believe we're positioned differently. We're novel, which is a key driver. We also have a very good profile addressing antimicrobial resistance, which we can come to later. So we're clearly addressing that problem of AMR, but we're also very localized, no systemic absorption, so we're targeted therapy, we're very safe, effective, and also we can make this relatively cheaply. So obviously we want to have a strong commercial upside, but the fact is we can compete with sort of generic level pricing, we believe. So we believe we are different to some of the other perhaps antibiotics which have struggled, as we know, in US and Europe in the last 2 or 3 years, and we have a clear opportunity here with XF73, especially with the lead program. And the market is driven, as I said, by the number of operations. A third of this room is a carrier in the nose of Staph aureus. We have each of us 30 to 50 billion bugs on us in us. Staph aureus in the nose, when you go in for a serious operation, we're talking orthopedics, cardiac surgery, spinal surgeries, you have a 10 times greater risk of post-surgical staphylococcal infection. So if you can decolonize the nose, the day before the surgery, you reduce that risk. It's a well-established clinical protocol, but we believe is poorly served by current treatments. And of course, the market size is driven partly by product price, which we can pitch at the lower level. We're talking about $100 to $200 for a course of treatment, and it's driven by the number of operations, which is, of course, in our primary market in the US is into the tens of millions, but of course it's a global opportunity. I've been in Japanese hospitals, obviously in China as well, where decolonisation and the use of an effective decolonising treatment is established practice. The fact is, though, there are few alternatives to the old mupirocin GSK drug. So wounds, obviously, won't go into that, but they're obviously very unattractive when it happens, very costly, and clear pharmacoeconomics to an effective treatment. And we've tested this, of course, with classical market research in the US, and if we can deliver the target product profile, we're confident that we will have a market opportunity. There is no approved drug in the US. Mupirocin is used, which is an old GSK dermal drug, which has clear problems with resistance. It also has to be given 5 days before surgery. There are some competitors coming into the space, but we believe we're well ahead of the field. And of course, we have the QIDP status from the FDA, which means if we do deliver the profile, we will have the approval for that pre-surgery nasal decolonisation to prevent staph infections. Again, comparison to mupirocin. Move on the slide there. We have 1 day dosing versus 5 days because we have a very novel, fast-acting mechanism. We address antimicrobial resistance. We have a non-irritant formulation, basically the same profile as water. It's innovative, and we have the support of the QIDP. So we're very confident that we can beat mupirocin as a product. This is data showing we believe our unique low resistance profile. So I don't know if I've got a pointer, but basically this is called a passage study. It's classical microbiology. Basically, you expose the bacteria you're looking to kill. In this case, it's MRSA. And you apply your test drug, or as you see with the bars in the grey and the purple, old established antibiotics. Over time, as you expose bacteria to the drug, they become resistant. So you have to apply more and more of your drug to kill the bacteria to achieve effective kills. But you see over time here on the bottom, 55 exposures, but basically no MRSA resistance to XF drugs. And this is one of the longest ever published passage studies. So all antibiotics fail on this test, but we believe we have a clear differentiation with the profile of XF73, which is a class effect. And we've showing this now in human samples, where, of course, we have subjects in studies. We can test the bacteria from those samples, and we're seeing the same profile. So we probably should never say no resistance, but definitely much, much better than some of the old antibiotics that, of course, are the primary causes of the generation of superbugs and superbugs with resistant strains. This is some of our clinical data. This is a study that was published, actually finally written up by the NIAID in September and published. They paid and carried out this study. It's effectively in carriers in the nose of Staph aureus. So on the left hand, the 3 bars are given placebo gel. On the right hand side, our active drug. You do have a placebo effect because if I blow my nose, I lose bacteria. But you have to be below that black horizontal line to be clinically relevant. If you're below the line, you're clear. If above your line, you're a carrier, you're still at risk. And obviously, the XF drug clearly over various days delivered a very effective, clinically relevant kill. We need to repeat that in the current phase 2, where we're recruiting patients who are going in for cardiac surgery. We've also, of course, been in various phase 1 studies, exposed to over 250 subjects, very safe. We've established the formulation, and in terms of the dermal profile as well, a very, very safe profile and non-irritant status. So a good set of phase 1 data, as you'd expect, as we're going into phase 2B. So the current clinical plans, the phase 2 is underway. We're looking to deliver that data by the middle of next year, where we'll continue to have discussions with the FDA, but obviously we're looking then to move into phase 3s in the US and possibly combine with Europe. Our China partner will take the lead in any China clinical development that's required. And we're also developing an easy-to-use sort of formulation presentation of blow-field sealed delivery. So we have a very exact dosage which can effectively follow the patient through their sort of 3 days of treatment. And again, we believe we're presenting a product which delivers a very attractive target profile, but also fits effectively into the current protocol, which is a nasal gel decolonisation. And it's still a relevant issue in 2019. These are just 3 papers that have come out relevant to the space we're in. On the left, a global study showing the continuing problem with increasing resistance to mupirocin. The middle study is very interesting. It's basically saying for the Cardiac Surgeon Society in the States, saying that all cardiac surgery patients should be decolonized. Don't even bother to screen if you're a carrier. It's just the risk is such that everyone should be decolonized. Of course, this is sort of manna from heaven for us to have this support for our approach. And on the right-hand side, there's other studies talking about the continued decolonization of patients after surgery, where, again, infections can appear later, as it were, after that period of risk when you're actually cut open, again, with MRSA and MRSA being a continuing problem. There's also issues in the US military with dropout of recruits, where, again, cross-contamination and carriers causing infection. So it's an issue which we believe is an interesting market, and again, we believe we're well ahead of the field in delivering a target product profile which can deliver an effective, cost-effective as well solution. This is the study detail, which I won't go into. Coming back to the pipeline, we obviously have some earlier programs which are progressing, which are of less interest to the investor community, but we believe we can take XFs into some other markets. Obviously, diabetic foot ulcers and associated infections is a major problem. We're doing some work there, which we'll announce sort of over the next 6 to 12 months, further progress on that program. And we also have some grant-funded collaborations, as I said before, with expert groups. And it's quite interesting, these, obviously the predictive microbiology is always said to be, they're very good models, as it were, the animal models and the Petri dish models, but also now with human tissue samples, be it infected lung or dermal models, where you hopefully can get some more relevant information via sort of medical analysis, which really links, we think, well with our previous work on the XF platform. And we're hopeful we can identify some new lead candidates, be it respiratory, ocular, or related to biofilms from the work that's ongoing, which again is grant funded, so non-dilutive funding. And there are examples of not only earlier stage work being funded through grant funding, but there are companies who are getting clinical funding as well. So in the future, although we will need to refinance, we're hopeful that there's further sources of non-dilutive funding and partnering will help us on our way. And in terms of partnering, we have our deal with China Medical Systems. We're also having some discussions with other parties. Obviously, phase 2 data is key there to drive those opportunities, but we're very open to partnering discussions. And in terms of summary, prevention is better than cure, and that's especially, particularly with our lead asset, that's the story. We've got some key data coming out next year. The study's underway, recruiting patients as I speak. Good IP, decent cash position. It lasts us till 2021, so it won't last forever, but I think that's not a bad position to be in, some difficult markets. And we also have some earlier assets which are progressing as well. So we're very committed to this space. We know it's an unfashionable area, but infections are still out there and they need better treatments. Thank you.